This is the worst trade in history. The fierce big bad wolf has turned into a docile little white rabbit. According to sports reports, the Minnesota Timberwolves traded elite stretch big Naz Reid along with an unprotected 2031 first-round pick, 3 first-round pick swaps, and 3 second-round picks to the Charlotte Hornets in exchange for LaMelo Ball and guard Josh Green. When I first saw this trade, I thought the Hornets were the ones giving up draft picks, which seemed okay. But upon closer inspection, seeing that the Timberwolves gave up a first-round pick, 3 swaps, and 3 second-round picks left me completely dumbfounded. My initial reaction was that the Timberwolves had completely collapsed. Their interior presence was gone, their winning logic was totally destroyed, and all their value contracts were shipped out. However, after thinking about it overnight, I have some new perspectives now. First, let's set aside questions of compatibility and team system and look at this trade solely from the angle of player value. Let's look at Naz Reid first. Reid is a high-quality, starting-caliber big man who is highly sought after across the league, providing very scarce game value. Last season, he averaged 13.6 points and 6.2 rebounds. His three-point volume was very high, attempting 8 per 36 minutes with a 36.2% shooting percentage. His catch-and-shoot efficiency remained steadily above 38%, and he took a massive number of highly difficult shots with defenders right in his face. Compared to other bigs, Reid has a very quick release on his three-pointers. 2 years ago, he would aim a bit before shooting, but now he frequently catches and shoots while moving at high speeds. Most interior players haven't developed off-the-dribble three-point skills because dribble pull-ups and catch-and-shoot jumpers are completely different technical skill sets that require immense shooting talent. But over the last 2 years, Reid has been taking more and more off-the-dribble threes. He is an elite stretch big whose shooting can kill opponents. His gravitational pull on the court is massive, and simply stepping on the floor drastically improves the offense. Reid's other ability is ball handling. He dribbles very well. Even if you close out on him properly after he catches the ball, he's hard to guard because he has an incredibly strong spot-up drive ability. He can quickly attack open space after putting the ball on the floor, and he can seamlessly chain behind the back and between the legs while on the go. He has a precise floater, and once he gets within 10 feet, his shooting percentage exceeds 50%. Reid is absolutely terrifying beyond the three-point line. You have to stick tightly to him, and you have to use large forwards or big men to guard him because he will just overpower smaller guards straight to the rim on his first step. Speaking strictly offensively, I believe Reid is the absolute pinnacle of a supporting big man. You don't need to run any plays for him. Just standing there, he draws defensive attention, making his fit with any lineup flawless. The Timberwolves used him as a backup mainly because Randle could act as a primary scorer and passer, whereas Reid is strictly a supporting player. On most teams, Reid is fully capable of being the starting power forward. Reid's main flaw is his defense. He cannot play as a starting center. At only 6'9", he is too undersized for the position. His rim protection falls completely short of center standards, his pick-and-roll defense and switching are just average, and he cannot guard truly elite centers one-on-one. Playing the 4 is the right role for Reid. It keeps him from being exposed on the front lines of defense. He just needs to use his body to match up against forwards and occasionally play help defense to secure rebounds to get the job done. In summary, Reid is an elite frontcourt puzzle piece with supreme offensive compatibility and a defense that doesn't drag the team down. His salary is very cost-effective. He will make only $23 million next season, and on the open market, he is worth at least 1 or 2 first-round picks. Now let's look at the Hornets. The centerpiece of this trade is LaMelo Ball. Josh Green is just a throw-in who can be ignored. LaMelo is a very complex player. His draft pedigree is high. Anthony Edwards was the first overall pick, and he was the third. In his first year, he beat out Edwards to win Rookie of the Year. In his second year, he averaged 20.1 points and 7.6 assists and made the All-Star team. His development was sailing smoothly. But over the next 3 years, he suffered from severe attendance issues, playing only 36, 22, and 47 games respectively. At his absolute best, right before his injury, he was averaging 27.3 points, 5.8 rebounds, and 6.9 assists. He was briefly the league's leader in three-pointers, and his pick-and-roll pull-up three was virtually unguardable. However, ankle and wrist injuries still forced him to miss a massive amount of games. Aside from attendance problems, LaMelo's playing style also heavily resembled that of an empty stats player. Although he has a 6'7" frame, his defensive impact ranks near the bottom among point guards. He often needed to be hidden on defense, he rarely guarded point guards, couldn't handle strong forwards, and his help defense energy was very low. Offensively, while he possessed a complete arsenal of on-ball skills, there was always a sense of casualness to his game. He chased basketball aesthetics and flashy passes, making his playstyle more entertaining than practical. However, last season, LaMelo rehabilitated his value. The Hornets had a dismal record for the first 3 months, but starting in January, they went on a 9-game win streak, taking down the Thunder, Lakers, and Spurs consecutively. In the second half of the season, the Hornets secured an impressive 35 wins, finishing with 44 wins to reach the play-in tournament. Their net rating was plus 4.3, which would rank 8th in the league. The Hornets' starting five had a net rating of 137.5, the highest in the entire league. They combined strong side on-ball pick and rolls with weak side off-ball screens. The team ran heavy off-ball actions on the weak side, using shooters as screeners to jam up defenders or popping for threes. But a heavy dose of off-ball tactics requires someone to deliver the payload, and the true mastermind orchestrating this offensive system was LaMelo Ball. This season, LaMelo averaged 20.1 points and 7.1 assists. The basic stats were modest, but his impact was astounding. His EPM was 4.5, ranking 12th in the league. Previously, LaMelo played however he pleased, and his practice habits were also very casual. But this season, starting from training camp, he displayed a completely different mental state. He gained 12 pounds of muscle, slept more, trained earlier, and thoroughly studied opponent scouting reports before every game to prepare for defense. His playstyle became more unselfish. He restrained his casual shot selection, and his assists became simpler and more effective, focusing on the game rather than putting on a show. He also matured off the court. When he returned from injury in January, he voluntarily requested to come off the bench, primarily so he could play back-to-back games and appear in more matches. His playing time was capped at 28 minutes per game, which allowed him to play 72 games for the entire season. In the play-in tournament, he went crazy with 30 points and 10 assists, sealing the game with a clutch driving layup in the final moments to eliminate the Heat. LaMelo's inherent flaws actually stem from his physical body. Although he has great size, he lacks muscular strength. His physical play is average, and he lacks explosive burst, which leads to a very low finishing percentage at the rim. He loves to use double-clutch layups to avoid contact, chasing basketball aesthetics, and the consequence is that he draws absolutely no fouls. His free throw attempt rate is a mere 14.4%, averaging only 2 free throws per game. This is his biggest weakness as a primary ball handler. He completely fails to utilize the rules to his advantage. His poor defense is also a result of a frame that is too slight. It's not an attitude problem, it's just his physical makeup. Overall, however, LaMelo remains an incredibly strong, oversized point guard. His ball handling, passing, and shooting are very scarce talents. Any player in the league who can perfectly combine these 3 traits is an all-star. His salary for the next 3 years is only about $43 million. Nowadays, even Austin Reeves is getting around $46 million annually, and LaMelo is far better than Reeves. Considering LaMelo's contract and the performance he puts up during a healthy season, I believe he is undoubtedly a positive asset with a market value of about 2 to 3 first-round picks. Trading Reid, a complimentary big man along with a first-round pick and some inexpensive second-round swaps for an all-star caliber core point guard isn't really an issue. The assets are evenly matched. The public might subconsciously feel that LaMelo is just an empty stats player on a bad team and that Reid is a top-tier puzzle piece, but the reality is that neither player is as extreme as these narrative stereotypes suggest. Simply put, LaMelo isn't that weak and Reid isn't that strong. Trading Reid plus a first-round pick for LaMelo is fundamentally reasonable, but a trade is never just a simple exchange of assets. You have to look at compatibility and whether it's a good fit for the team. Let's see what logic the Timberwolves used to make this trade. To understand this trade, you first have to understand Timberwolves general manager Tim Connelly. Connelly is a forward-thinking GM with tremendous strategic vision. He built the core of the Denver Nuggets championship team. He drafted Nikola Jokic, Jamal Murray, and Michael Porter Jr., hired coach Michael Malone, and traded for Aaron Gordon. This core ultimately won the championship in 2023. In 2022, Connelly was poached by the Timberwolves with a massive contract, and he began building a new system. He traded 4 first-round picks for Gobert, a move that wasn't well received at the time. Connelly's first step in team building was primarily aimed at countering Denver's massive front court, combining it with their own large wing, Jaden McDaniels, to focus on size and defensive basketball. Over the past 3 years, they defeated Jokic twice, and in one series, they eliminated Denver using a depleted roster. The Timberwolves reached the Western Conference Finals twice and set a franchise record for their best regular season. In those 2 WCF appearances, they lost once to the Mavericks and once to the Thunder. You can certainly say that Gobert has limitations and that Randle isn't quite good enough, but the most fundamental reason is that Anthony Edwards' sheer ability is not yet on par with Luka Doncic and SGA. In 24, Luka's 32.4 points, 9.6 rebounds, and 8.2 assists crushed Edwards' 24.7, 8.8 boards, and 7.8 assists. In 25, SGA's 31.4 points, 5.2 rebounds, and 8.2 assists crushed Edwards' 23 points, 27.4 boards, and 4.6 assists. Edwards is great, absolutely a top 10 player in the league, but those two are top 3 MVP contenders. They're a tier above him. It's already extremely impressive that Connelly could build a team around Edwards to reach the Western Conference Finals twice. If Edwards could take the next step, unlocking his passing game to become a primary heliocentric creator, he would be an MVP-level player. But that simply hasn't happened. Although Edwards is scoring more and more, his playmaking hasn't improved much, and he still relies on players like Randle and DiVincenzo to run the offense. Furthermore, Edwards began having attendance issues. He only played 60 games this year, and his defense also declined due to physical ailments, ultimately falling short in the semifinals while plagued by injuries. Another piece of bad news for the Timberwolves is that their starting wing, Jaden McDaniels, has been confirmed to have a torn left Achilles and is out for the season. The front office knows that this roster has reached its ceiling. Maintaining the status quo still won't be enough to beat the Thunder, and they can't even afford to maintain the status quo anyway. Their salary cap has already exploded, making it impossible to add reinforcements. Most likely, their record would only get worse, and just reaching the Western Conference Finals would be difficult. They didn't even make it this year. The massive lineup that Connelly built has fulfilled its historical mission as of this year. Beating Jokic twice and reaching the WCF twice is the absolute limit of this roster. To break through, they have to drastically overhaul the lineup. Clearing out Randle first was the right move. Randle becomes useless on drives when facing someone like Wembanyama. He is only good at padding stats against weaker teams and has a huge salary, so getting rid of him was step 1. Next, they had to figure out what the team needed most. Anthony Edwards is essentially a pure scoring wing. His transition to a heliocentric playmaker is basically impossible at this point. With Randle gone, they lost their assist leader, and DiVincenzo, who was second in assists last season, is out for the year. To improve, the Timberwolves first absolutely needed a player who could organize the entire team's offense. The Timberwolves previously had an eye on players like Derek White, but bringing in White would likely only be a minor tweak and wouldn't break the ceiling. Furthermore, White wouldn't be cheap, and they would still have to trade a core piece to get him. Connelly decided to go all out and acquire a true pick-and-roll, pass-first primary initiator who could single-handedly string together their stagnant offense. The league's top engine players in assist rate include Jokic, Trae Young, Halliburton, Giddey, and Luka. We can immediately ignore Jokic, Halliburton, and Luka. Trae Young just signed an extension, and Giddey is the core of the Bulls and won't be traded. The person with the 6th highest assist rate left is LaMelo Ball. LaMelo is actually a better fit for the Timberwolves than Trae Young or Giddey. He is a true pick-and-roll mastermind. Also, the Hornets had the intention of selling LaMelo, so Connelly locked onto his target. To acquire a star of this caliber, you have to bleed a little. With Gobert gone, they truly have no centers left. Jaden is the premier defensive wing, second only to Edwards. Ultimately, they had no choice but to trade Reid. Although Reid is excellent, his importance is lower compared to the guys mentioned above. To fill the team's need for a pick-and-roll core, they had to reluctantly part ways with Reid. Looking at it from this perspective, the move is actually quite reasonable and not nearly as absurd or suicidal as it seemed at first glance. The Timberwolves originally built their team on defense and size, which was the foundation that made them a powerhouse in the West, a factor even greater than their superstars' individual level. The ceiling for that lineup was the Western Conference Finals, and they couldn't go any further, so Connelly completely tore it down to rebuild. Now, the Timberwolves have become a standard pick-and-roll team. Using the LaMelo and Gobert pick-and-roll as their foundational framework, they add two-way wings, one of whom is a top 10 elite superstar, capable of scoring 30 points in every conceivable way. At the very least, this four-man core is definitely not weak, and three of them can play elite defense, easily covering up LaMelo's defensive liabilities. Of course, the rest of the roster isn't great right now, and they currently don't have a power forward. One possibility is sliding Jaden to the 4 and promoting Dosunmu to start at the 3, but Jaden playing the 4 long-term could lead to health issues. They still need to acquire an interior player who can give them about 25 minutes a night. Their rookie center will be crucial. He has great physical gifts and the potential to become a rim-rolling monster. I am not that pessimistic about the Timberwolves. They have become weaker in the short term, but the basic framework of their four-man core is solid. The rest is just filling in the puzzle pieces. If they construct the roster rationally, their ceiling has a chance to be even higher than before. The first era of the Timberwolves is over, and Connelly has now rebooted them into a second era. This is essentially a soft rebuild, transforming them from a defensive juggernaut into a pick-and-roll team. They will likely need 1 to 2 seasons to build the right chemistry, but Edwards and LaMelo are only 24 years old. They are still young and have time on their side. If one formula is doomed to fail, you switch to another. Whether it will succeed is unknown, but you have to at least try. The true risk of this trade is LaMelo's attendance. That is the key. If LaMelo can only play 40 games a year, the Timberwolves are completely finished, and they would have been better off with a healthy Randall. But for Connelly, he would rather have 1 championship and 3 lottery finishes than consecutive first and second round playoff exits, which is why he was always going to make the trade. That's how gamblers think. If you want to win big, you have to place the bet. I really like this kind of general manager. Mediocrity is too boring, and gambling is what makes it exciting. Welcome to subscribe to my channel. Thank you, everyone.